Good! So good! Just catching flies, Dr. Seward, for my spiders.
You haven't been eating them, have you, Renfield?
Eating the flies? Oh, no, Dr. Seward.
What is it like, Renfield, when you swallow a fly? Does it continue to flutter in your throat? And the taste. What does a fly taste like?
Like a chestnut, sir.
Raw or roasted?
I catch the flies for the spiders, and the spiders is for the sparrows, and the sparrows... Oh! You haven't found a cat for me yet, or even a kitten?
Oh, I'm still making inquiries about that.
A kitten would do, Doctor, for it would soon grow into a cat, would it not? A kitten could sit in my lap and I would stroke its fur and feel the warmth of its blood and life. And I have the sparrows, and the cat would love the sparrows.
And could I find, Renfield, someday, the cat that had eaten the sparrows had in turn been eaten by you?
Well, that is life, Doctor, is it not? There is that which eats, and that which is eaten, and that which is eaten continues in the lifespan of that which eats. A design for immortality, is it not? Then there is no death, ever. But now, Doctor, might you not let me have a little more sugar? I think it would be good for me.
And flies?
Yes! The flies like the sugar too, and I like the flies. Therefore...
Mrs. Harper, how is your Lucy?
Oh, my niece is sleeping now, and most peacefully.
Think it possible, Mrs. Harper, we might have the wedding on Sunday?
Oh, Dr. Stewart, I feel it best that there be no further wedding plans until the strange malady that has taken hold of my niece be determined.
Perhaps Professor Von Helsing will be at that.
Professor Van Helsing.
England's foremost metaphysicist. The professor is arriving today. He loves her friend. But I also plan to call attention to Lucy's condition.
You would have a metaphysicist examine Lucy? You're a doctor, a man of science.
There are some things, Mrs. Harper, that are beyond the realm of science.
My late husband was a student of the occult. Do you think possibly that...
Dr. Stewart, if you don't mind, sir, I'd like to have a word with you.
Of course, Abigail. Speak out.
In private, if you don't mind. It's about him, the loony.
Oh.
And what might you be doing young Mr. Renfield?
Well, Mrs. Harker, I've been catching flies for my spiders, and the spiders is for the sparrows, and Dr. Seward is to be getting me a cat or a kitten, and the sparrows is for him.
Renfield.
Yes, sir?
The sparrows in your room are missing, Renfield.
Oh, are they, sir?
What happened to the sparrows, Renfield?
I must let them all loose.
You ate them, didn't you?
But they is life-giving, Doctor, like a cat or a kitten.
There are to be no more sparrows, no more spiders, and no more
Oh,
flies.
Doctor, they is life to give me life.
There will be tea and cakes and sausage.
Dead! Oh, dead! I must have life to bring me life!
Renfield, go to your room.
Dr. Stewart, why do you keep that young man about this house?
Renfield is highly important to the research I'm conducting.
Each time I go down that room, I shudder for what I might see. You know, Lucy is all I have now. Do you understand?
Yes, Mrs. Harper, I understand.
This has been her dream. Lucy's dream to be the mistress of a country manor.
So she shall be. With you here to assist you, of course.
Oh, yes. But I still feel that it's important to send this man away with Lucy in her present condition.
Renfield is really quite harmless, except for his barbarous tendencies.
Euphonious.
Yes, the belief that only living food can bring him life. Renfield is, in that respect, like a cobra, for example, which must be only breathing animals or perish.
And this cat.
Renfield craves a cat as food.
Dr. Seward, if you give him my cat, then what? Please send him away. For my sake. For Lucy's sake.
But my work with Renfield is in the interest of science.
You would put science above Lucy, whom you love, whom we both love.
All right. I'll send him away.
Good.
After Professor Von Helsing's. Professor Von Helsing believes that there may be metaphysical ramifications in Renfield's behavior of interest in the study of the occult world. The professor is right with me.
It's almost 8 now.
Professor Von Helsing has arrived.
Please, show the professor in. Professor Von Helsing.
Dr. Seward, you are Professor Van Helsing?
Mrs. Harper, aunt of my fiancé.
Why is it, Doctor, that only the female of the species is shocked at my presence? I'm not shocked, I assure you. Surprised, then. Surprised, I'll confess to that. The cane I carry not because of infirmity, but because it lends authority. And it also serves to characterize. In metaphysics, dear lady, we deal with time and space and sensory appearance. Appearance which is possibly the only true reality. Paulson feels that all noble things come from indescribable reality beneath outer physical appearance. And characterization is the first step in creating that physical appearance. Do you not agree, Dr. Seward?
In part. It is a great honor to have you here, Professor.
And a great adventure for me to be here. All the world is following with eager anticipation your work with young Renfield.
Soon you shall meet him and have a chance to observe him.
This case is of importance not only to medical science, but to us also in metaphysics. Metaphysics. Isn't that the study of the supernatural? Only partly. We deal with the question of being, seeking for that unity which lies beneath the multiplicity of phenomena. We attempt to go beyond the senses, beyond perception and apperception, beyond the conscious and unconscious, into the world of phenomena. My own particular interest is in the extension of being, both spatial and temporal. Like Renfield, who attempts to extend his being through the devouring of insects, I attempt to extend my being through the human memories of others. You will remember me, Mrs. Harper, long after I'm gone. For to be remembered by someone, only for a while, is a form of immortality, is it not? So you see, Mrs. Harper, I work at character, or more accurately, characterization. I work at being a unique person. Character is destiny, and I seek a unique destiny. Would you like a cigar? Oh, dear me, no! I picked up the vice in Turkey, along with a few others, but it's the only acquired vice I've been able to get through British customs.
There is another matter, Professor, that is of most importance to us, and which you may be of some help. A fortnight ago, there was to be a wedding between Miss Lucy and myself. However, my fiancé suddenly developed strange symptoms. We thought it best to postpone the wedding. Mrs. Harper.
And what were these strange symptoms?
Developed a general weakness. Commenced sleepwalking.
She has walked in her sleep before, but never like this. As if a strange voice were calling her. Some evil force. Why evil? Anything unnatural must be evil. And was there any change in her physical condition other than weakness?
None, except for two small pinpricks around her throat.
Yes, we feel poor Lucy must have cut herself while trying to secure her scarf. Two marks on her throat, nothing more than that.
Nothing.
Aha! A mystery to be pursued.
Oh no.
Renfield, please stay. Don't go. Renfield, this is Professor Von Helsing.
Has Has she come to look at me?
Professor is my friend. To be a guest here.
She has come to look at me. Oh, you can't fool me! You think I'm strange because I eat spiders.
Come, my young friend. Sit next to me.
Are you a doctor?
I'm a professor of metaphysics.
Metaphysics.
Yes, we deal with the physical, the psychical, and the spiritual. The physical is what is seen from the outside, and the psychical is what is seen from within. And the spiritual is a self-appointment of matter, matter being the presentment of one spirit to another.
Oh, yes.
In metaphysics, we are interested in being, of life both here and beyond, of life on all its manifest levels, of the transference of life.
Oh, the transference! I know.
What do you know, Renfield?
There is life in everything. There is life in a fly, and that life can be transferred. And life in a spider, and that life can be transferred. And life in a sparrow. And life in a kitten, a cat. I catch a fly, and I swallow it. That life becomes part of me, part of my life. And the spider I swallow becomes part of me, part of my life. And the sparrow I swallow becomes part of me, part of my life. And I am no longer merely Renfield, but the fly, the spider, and the sparrow. Do you understand?
Yes, I understand. And Dr. Seward understands.
Do you, Dr. Seward? Do you understand?
Oh, yes, Renfield. I understand.
Out there, all is life. But what is life? Life be, after all, only a waiting for something other than what we're doing. And death be the only thing we can rightly depend on.
Fascinating. Renfield, here we may have the metaphysical link we've been searching for. The supernatural manifestation of eternal desires expressed in their lowest animalistic order. Physical, psychical, and spiritual. I'm looking forward, Dr. Seward, to the fully published account. But now you must tell me more about this mystery of your Lucy. She came here to be married, correct?
Correct.
Seemingly in good health and spirits.
Correct.
And then she developed a general weakness, but with no physical signs of any malady,
None whatsoever.
except for the 2 marks upon her throat and fingers. And when Miss Lucy sleepwalks, where does she venture?
There, mostly. On the balcony. But once to Carfax,
Carfax?
the neighboring estate.
Yes, a most goodly gentleman lives there. He brought her back to us. Still sleeping? Oh, yes. How strange. He made no attempt to awaken her.
Lucy.
Aunt Emily. Aunt Emily.
Here, my child. Here.
Do you hear the bells? Church bells. A wedding. Oh, see, coming up the steps. The bride. But all alone. She stops, and someone takes her hand, and they enter together. But it is not a church. It is not a church. And the bells, they're not the joyous bells of a wedding, but the bells tolling death.
Go with me, Mrs. Harper. Stay outside, particularly after raining. Anyone who fell would be instant death.
Are there wolves about?
Dogs, the neighboring estate, Carfax. Tonight is the full moon.
Yes, and also St. George's Eve.
St. George's Eve.
It's an old superstition from Middle Europe. When the clock strikes 12, all the evil things in the world will have full sway. Have you never heard? from that bush, and a small branch from the mountain ash. From the kitchen green garlic, and from the hallway the crucifix on the wall. Go quickly, there's no time to lose.
I just want to talk to you. You don't talk now. The master is at hand.
I have a spider for you, Renfield. Come and see the spider, Renfield. Eat the spider.
I am here to do your bidding, master. Now that you are near, I await your commands. You will not forsake me. Will you, master? I shall be patient, master. It is coming.
Bring her to the sofa, Mrs. Harper. It is best she sleep here tonight, away from her usual room. For tonight is St. George's Eve.
Professor, while I was out on the balcony, there was a giant bat lying against me.
It is best we all retire, Mrs. Harper. Good night.
Lucy.
Do not awaken her. It is best that she sleep. Put the things on the desk and leave us alone. Please, I insist.
A bit of tea, Dr. Seward. Make the world a lot brighter.
Not believe it. Lucy is dead.
Now, Dr. Seward, a bit of tea. She was so kind. Just as you were kind. Gentle. And thoughtful.
How did she regard me, Mrs. Harper? Did she think me dull?
It's funny you ask. She said the same thing. Did you think that she was dull?
We cannot all be Professor Von Helsing's.
Oh. There must be some contrast. Perhaps I say that because I'm shy, reserved. You know, the professor is much like the Count.
Oh? In what way?
They're both proud. Very proud.
But they will be remembered.
Yes, they will be remembered.
That's where she be. Miss Lucy, out on Hampstead Heath.
Oh, yes, you do.
In a marble tomb she be, Miss Lucy.
Yes. In a marble tomb.
The master says there be no death. While there is life, there be no death.
Fox and spiders, Renfield, you left them on the table. Renfield seems very affected by Lucy's death. You know, they seemed very close before she died.
Perhaps Renfield in some way perceived Lucy's pending death. And perhaps Lucy herself knew that death was near to take her into his arms. Not I, but death.
Oh, a bit of tea, Professor. Why, yes. Nothing would please me more, dear lady. Have you seen today's paper?
Oh, I hope not another incident on the heath. It'd be an awful, terrible thing.
Fortunately, yes. In the same sort of circumstances. Young children playing and being enticed away by a beautiful young lady. And then being found.
Those poor children.
And then being found. All with the same sort of marks on the throat.
Perhaps a rat or a small dog.
Tell me, Dr. Seward, what did Miss Lucy die of?
Of nervous prostration following a great loss or waste of blood.
And how was this blood lost or wasted?
That I do not know, Professor Von Helsing.
You mean, Dr. Seward, you know of no medical or scientific explanation?
Science seeks to collect all possible evidence based on sensible phenomena.
Aha, the census, Doctor. 5, or more, at least we know of 5. Why was it? Let us take a simple bell, for instance, Doctor. How do we know the bell? By our senses of sight and touch. We see and we may feel. But if the bell is moved, there may be a sound. We know the sound by our sense of sight or by our sense of hearing. But if we lacked that sense, we would not know it's a sound. So isn't that possible, Doctor, Yes, we must admit, there are perceptions beyond our mere limited sensory capabilities. Tell me, Dr. Seward, do you believe in corporeal transference? No. In astral bodies? No. In thought reading? In hypnotism?
I believe in hypnotism.
Yes, then you understand how it works. The possibility of getting into the very soul of the person hypnotized. There are so many mysteries in life. Why was it that Methuselah lived 900 years, and yet poor dear Lucy not more than 20? And why, when some spiders die small and soon, that one great spider lived for centuries in the tower of the old Spanish church, and it grew and it grew and it grew, until on descending, would drink all the oil in the church lamps. And why in Pampas, and elsewhere, there are giant bats who fly down on cattle and horses and open their veins and suck them dry. And why in some islands of the western seas, there are bats who hang on the trees all day, and those who have seen described as like giant nuts or pods. And when the sailors sleep on deck at night, because it is hot, they fly down on them, and in the morning are found dead men, white as even Miss Lucy was.
My, Professor. Are you trying to tell me that there are bats like this here, in England? Professor Von Helsing, what are you asking of me?
I'm asking you to believe.
To believe what?
To believe in things you cannot. I once knew an American who so defined faith. That faculty, which enables us to believe in things we know to be untrue. I, for one, follow that man. He meant that we should not let a small truth check the rush of a big truth. Like a small rock would a railway car. We get the small truth first. Good, we keep it and we value it. But all the same, we must not consider that small truth all the truth in the universe.
Professor Von Helsing, come to the point. You are concerned with some previous conviction you think I may have should not interfere with some strange new truth you wish to introduce.
It's about the marks on Miss Lucy's throat. And in the paper you will recall the marks on the children's throats.
You think there may be a connection?
Dr. Seward, you and Mrs. Harper should prepare yourselves for a shock. For what I must now tell you about this lunatic occurred earlier and earlier, it seems.
Abigail, would you go upstairs and check on Renton?
Oh, sir, I'm afraid. You never can tell about those loonies. I'll go with you. Oh, would you, ma'am? I'd be ever so much obliged. You know, when I took this position, I never would have dreamed there'd be no loonies. No, ma'am, I never had a thought like that.
Dr. Seward, I'm glad Mrs. Harper has left us. But what I'm about to tell you would be too much of a shock for that lady.
Professor Von Helsing, you should have no concern about this. I'm a doctor. I'm a man of science, a grown man. Surely you should feel no reluctance.
It's about the pinpricks on Miss Lucy's throat. And the same sort of marks found on the children's throats, wounded on Hempstead Heath.
Renfield, how did you get out onto the balcony?
From my room.
That's not possible.
I scaled the wall, much as a lizard might do. My master taught me. So you see, Dr. Seward, I am no longer your prisoner. I can leave whenever I want, escape whenever I desire. But that should not concern you, Doctor, for I find living here most pleasant. The flies, the spiders, and the sparrows. You promised me a cat or a kitten, but that is no longer important now that the master is here.
Renfield, the truth. How did you get onto that balcony?
I climbed out of my window and came down the wall. I said to myself, Renfield, that is a feat a lizard might do, and certainly you, Renfield, a man, must be far superior to a lizard, so might not you be able to do what a lizard does? And so I did. Head first down the wall, grasping the bricks and the mortar until I reached the balcony. You see, Dr. Seward, I once ate a lizard live. It is inside me, its life is mine. And whenever be a visit to scale the wall, then a visit I am.
Redfield is here, as you can see.
But now I return to my room, for there are flies in my room for the spiders, and the spiders is for the sparrows, and the sparrows for Redfield. Oh! Mr. Van Helsing.
Yes, Renfield.
Would you like to see my room?
Why, I'd be delighted to see your room, Renfield.
Dr. Seward, I believe I'll be leaving Tuesday next.
Must you go, Mrs. Harper?
Oh, yes, I've taxed your hospitality much too much as it is now. Lucy's death. Her in the tomb, I just feel that Count Dracula.
Please, show the Count in.
Please excuse this most sudden interruption, Dr. Seward, but I wish to warn you that one of my dogs has escaped.
Oh?
Yes, the one called Wolf. In fact, he is a wolf I have tamed, very harmless unless aroused, but liable to become frightened.
Oh, dear.
No need to panic, dear lady. That is why I have made this visit. My men will have him soon, and the danger will have passed.
Oh, what about? Oh, my.
I'm so sorry, Mrs. Harper. I was unable to attend your niece's funeral. Important affairs carried me away that afternoon. I know your grief must be immeasurable. I only met her once, but was struck by her youth and beauty. A tragic loss.
Yes.
Perhaps some evening, dear lady, you will grace my dining room.
Mrs. Harper leaves on Tuesday next.
So soon? Oh, pity. Well, again, Dr. Seward, if you will excuse this interruption, and Mrs. Harper, perhaps we shall see one another again before you leave.
Perhaps.
Good evening.
Amazing. The only possible entrance to the balcony is through this room. Yet Redfield has found another way.
Oh, Professor, we've had a report that there's a wolf about. Well, not a real wolf. A wild one that has escaped from the neighboring estate of Carfax. I just can't believe it. Oh, I'm certainly glad I won't be out this evening. I think I'll retire now. Professor, if I'm characterized as a frightened woman, you are correct. Perhaps my destiny none too unique, I'm afraid. Good night.
Now, Professor, about this matter of Lucy, the children on Hampstead Heath.
Dr. Seward, Mrs. Harper has related to me that for the past several weeks, there has been a bat seeking entrance to this room.
There are many bats hereabouts.
Yes, but only one with the boldness, the desire, the determination to enter.
And so,
The pinpricks on Miss Lucy's throat.
made by a bat?
No. Unless you consider that a bat may be the form of another thing, as also a wolf might be.
A wolf?
Yes, Dr. Seward. In the dark world of the occult, bats and wolves are often the semblance of something else.
I could never believe that.
Miss Lucy died from the loss of blood, not sucked from her by one of these evil beings.
By a bat? A wolf?
No, Dr. Seward. It is our Lucy who is out on Hampstead.
No. No.
Upstairs, there are files for you to see and to read.
But Lucy is dead. And in her tomb.
Lucy may or may not be in her tomb. That is for us to discover. Come now, Dr. Seward, to my room.
Master. I am here, Master. You promised.
Lucy,
Master. I have waited so long to be held in a man's arms. Take me to the heath, Master, as you promised. And will there be the children again? I need the young blood.
there are two who will be lured to your presence. A boy 9 and a girl 7.
So young. Ah, this good, the flowing, young blood into my mouth, down my throat, and into my veins, bringing immortal life. Life that is good, Master.
Yes, life that is good. Come, let us depart.
Master? Take me with you! Master! Master!
Bag. There, in the bookcase. There's someone missing. What is in the bag that must be hidden? Renfield, what are you doing awake? You should be sleeping.
How can I sleep when all others are awake and about?
Renfield, go to your room.
It's very difficult to hide, Dr. Seward. Very difficult.
Suppose you must thank him for what you did, Professor Mouse. Suppose I must thank you. The horror of it all.
Lucy has been freed from the undead and is now amongst the dead, as someday we all shall be.
I could not believe my eyes. Finding Lucy's coffin empty, and then seeing her there on the heap with the child in her arms, and witnessing her mouth on the child's throat, then watching her return to the coffin. I should have helped you, Mr. Whitehouse. I should have helped you with the deed.
But she was the woman you loved.
Tell me, Professor, what you did, what you had to do.
I drove a stake through her heart, and then I cut off her head. Now your Lucy's at peace, and the children out of Hampstead Heath are safe, at least for a while. But the vampire lives in his hereabouts, and perhaps already selecting his next victim.
Tell me, Professor. Everything you know.
My knowledge comes from the lore and experience of the ancients, and of all those who have studied the powers of the undead. For when they become such, there is with the change, the curse of immortality. They cannot die, but must go on age after age, adding new victims, and multiplying the evils of the world. For all those who die from attacks from the undead become themselves undead, and they seek their victims. And so the circle goes on, ever widening, like the ripple from a stone thrown into the water.
Now Lucy has been freed from the undead.
Yes, her soul now is free.
Professor Van Helsing, like you, I am interested in the occult, and here is a book, long of favorites, which I desire you to have.
Why, thank you, Renfield.
Yes, I myself am an instance of a man who has held a strange belief. Indeed, it is no wonder that my friends were alarmed and insisted on my being put here. That is why I am here, Professor, because of my beliefs, which do not differ materially, perhaps, from yours. Dignified, of course, by the term metaphysics. You see, I used to fancy that life was a positive and perpetual entity, and that by consuming a multitude of living things, no matter how low on the evolutionary scale, one might indefinitely prolong life. At times, I held that belief so strongly that I actually tried to take human life. The doctor here will bear me up, and on one occasion I tried to kill him for the purpose of strengthening my vital powers through the assimilation of his life with my body through the medium of his blood. Isn't that so, Doctor? I refer, of course, to the spiritual phrase, for the blood is the life. Deuteronomy 12:23. I play the character of the lunatic, Professor, and you that of metaphysicist. Although we both think the same, do we not, Professor?
Renfield is our key.
What?
The vampire may only gain entry when asked therein to by an inmate. He has been here and destroyed our Lucy. Yes, Renfield surely is the key. For just as I am interested in your zoophaguous patient, so must the vampire be also, for it may extend his knowledge, just as it will extend ours. Renfield lives in the world of the occult, and in that world is our vampire.
Then Renfield is safe.
No, Doctor, for when the vampire has finished with him, he will be destroyed. Perhaps you will find another who will bid him invitation.
Who in this house would invite such a monster?
Indeed.
The Count has arrived?
The Count. I'd forgotten his point. Please, show the Count in. Professor Van Helsing, the Count, our good neighbor from Carfax.
Oh, yes, Carfax. I must admit, Count, I do find your mansion most interesting. Of course, I've only seen it from a distance.
It is much as you say the same as here. For you see, until 100 years ago, the houses were on one estate, owned by twin brothers. Is that not correct, Dr. Seward?
Yes, I believe so.
I made a full investigation before I purchased, 2 months ago.
So recently,
The Count is from Transylvania.
Transylvania.
Have you been there, Professor?
As a matter of fact, I have.
You are the first I've ever met, from the outside, who has been there.
I was attending a conference in Budapest. Metaphysical, for you see, Count, I'm a metaphysicist. A stranger I met at the conference who learned of my particular interest in being and all of its possible manifestations of extension suggested I visit Transylvania, particularly on St. George's Eve.
And did you?
Not on St. George's Eve, but at a later date. There were 4 of us in the group. An expedition, you might say.
It is a peasant superstition that on St. George's Eve a blue flame may be seen where treasures are hidden. I'm afraid Transylvania has an unhappy history with invasions by the Austrian, the Hungarian, and the Turk. And naturally, much wealth has found its way into the ground. with those who buried them never returned. So the treasures remain just under the ground and awaiting.
But if there is a blue flame, why haven't the treasures been found?
Because I thought the peasant is a coward and a fool. No, man, if it can help, will stir out on this night. That is the peasant, not the aristocrat. We are different. We Zacchaeus have the right to be proud, for in our veins flows the blood of many brave races who have fought as a lion fights for lordship. Here, in this whirlpool of European races, the Ufric tribe bore down from Iceland, bringing with them the fighting spirit which Thor and Woden had gave them. Here, too, when they came, they fought like the Huns, whose blood like fury swept over the earth like a living plague. To let the dying people held that in their veins flowed the blood of those old witches, who, mixed up from sides, they had mated with the devils of the desert. Fools! Fools! What devil or what witch has ever been as great as Attila, whose blood flows in these veins? Is it a wonder we are proud, that we are a conquering race? That when the Magyar, the Lombard, the Bulgar, the Avar, or the Turk poured his thousands on our frontier, we drove them back? And was it not one of my own race, who has Balbode crossed the Danube and beat the Turk on his own ground? These are my ancestors! But the warlike days are over. Blood is too precious a thing to waste in this time of dishonorable peace. And the glories of the great races are as a tale that is told. Forgive me, please, for my raving.
Not raving, sir, but impressive historical lore, and recited as if first-hand knowledge.
I have read much, Professor, studied much. For in those musty old books and records I find kinship, and I cross the barriers of time, extending my being, one might say. For in studying the past, Professor, one's own past, through the blood family line, one perhaps gets an intimation of immortality. Tell me, Professor, do you believe in immortality?
Yes. And I shall tell you why. Every natural longing given to us by God or by nature has its natural gratification. And since there is in man this craving for eternal life, for immortality, I believe that craving will also be satisfied.
You, of course, are speaking of material immortality.
Yes.
A sherry, Count?
Thank you, but no. Please, if I may, let me get to the purpose of my visit. You have here a young man by the name of Renfield?
Yes.
A patient of yours, I believe, Dr. Sue.
Yes.
And nearing recovery from what has afflicted him.
There has been no determination of that matter.
When he is discharged, whenever that might be, he will perhaps be desirous of a physician, seeking a master. I have need of an extra man of the estate. You might mention to young Renfield when you feel the time is propitious.
I thank you, Count, both for Renfield and for my sake.
No! Forgive me, dear lady. I'm afraid I was startled by the reflection and thought I saw something there on the balcony.
In fact, perhaps, Count, there is one hereabouts.
Professor, doctor, if you will excuse me.
The Count. His name was never mentioned. Oh, is the Count. Our neighbor, the gentleman from Carfax.
Yes. He is Count.
Yes, I know. He's Dracula. The Count Dracula.
Oh, yes.
My colleagues are looking all over England for him, and he's been here all the time.
Your colleagues?
From the expedition to Transylvania. After the greatest difficulty, we were finally able to locate Dracula's castle. For we had acquired knowledge of its existence, and of Dracula. But when we arrived, it was too late. The castle was deserted. We did, however, make a significant discovery in the Count's chapel.
Chapel?
Yes, a large amount of loam had been freshly removed. We later learned that a large box from the castle had been shipped to a port in England. Undoubtedly, it was a loan from the chapel. We know that it arrived at Whitby, but from that point there is no record.
And then?
Man. Bad at the window. The wolf you hear howling. All Dracula.
How can you be certain?
I purposely held up my mirror. There was no reflection. We both saw him go through that door. But no one left this house. At least no one visible.
Then he is still here.
Possibly. Upstairs is a file prepared by a colleague. Years of research. We believe this man to be the famous Vavodi Dracula, up 5 centuries ago. And if it be so, then this was no common man. For in his time, and for centuries thereafter, who was thought of as the cleverest, the most cunning, as well as the bravest of men. That mighty brain and iron resolution went with him to his grave, and are even now arrayed against us.
Professor Van Helsing, what are we to do?
We must find that box of earth, for that is where he must repose during the day.
And then?
And then, destroy him, before he strikes his next victim. Yes, we must find that box of earth, drive a stake through the heart, and sever the head. Tell me, Dr. Stewart, have you ever been inside Carfax? Has anyone you know?
Abigail. She was raised in the neighborhood. She mentioned once that as a child, she visited Carfax.
It is important that we discover where Dracula may be hiding before we attempt to enter Carfax.
Abigail, sit there. Abigail, we have some questions for you. It's about Miss Lucy.
Poor Miss Lucy.
Abigail, before she died, Miss Lucy visited Carfax.
Oh, Lordy.
She gained entrance, but how, Abigail? How?
Well, I suspect with the keys, sir. The 2 houses are the same keys and everything.
Abigail, you mentioned once that as a child you visited Carfax.
Didn't mean no harm. We didn't hurt nothing. It was my brother. Oh, mischievous lad he was. Rest his soul.
Abigail, tell us everything you remember.
Well, I was about 9 or 10 or thereabouts. And it was ever so spooky, as you might say. My brother Tom, he had the key. He took it from a shop in the kitchen. It was the only bad thing he ever did. No harm came of it, though. Oh, the door we used. It was so creaky. The sound would wake the dead, you might say. Inside it was dusty and cobwebs everywhere. There was the great hall and the study and the pantry and bath. Everything just like here.
Everything just like here?
Well, yes, sir. The 2 houses are the same, you know.
Thank you, Abigail.
May I leave, Dr. Seward?
Yes.
Thank you. And please, don't think bad about Tom. Rest his soul. He really was a good boy at heart. Of course, you know, sir, it ain't exactly the same. The other house had its chapel. not to leave on Tuesday. Here, give me your wrap. Thank you, Abby.
Where could he be? Dracula. We searched all of Carfax. As for Chapel, that must be something Abigail imagined.
Count Dracula has been seen in the courtyard of this mansion just before sunrise. Wherever he is resting, Dr. Seward, it is near, very, very near. What was once the mystery of the pursuit is now the pursuit of a mystery. Tell me, Dr. Seward, are you familiar with psychophysical parallelism? What feels that every psychical process has a physical accompaniment, and that every physiological process has psychical meaning, but neither external nor physiological stimuli are the causes of a psychical phenomenon. But for more flies, are you, Renfield?
The fly, Professor Van Helsing, has one striking feature. Its wings are typical of the aerial powers of the psychic faculties. The ancients did well when they typified the soul as a butterfly.
So it's the souls you are after now, is it?
Oh, no, I don't want any souls. Life is all I want.
So, young Renfield, you're not interested in soul?
Oh, no, indeed I'm not.
Why not?
I couldn't use them if I had them. They'd be a little good to me. I couldn't eat them.
Can you accept life without soul?
I don't want any soul.
But you like life, Renfield, and you want life.
Oh, yes.
Yes, but how are we to get life without also getting the soul? Oh, a nice time you'll have someday when you're flying out there with the souls of thousands of flies and spiders and birds buzzing and twittering. You've got their lives, you know, and you'll have to put up with their souls.
No.
Renfield, would you like some sugar? To get your flies around again.
Not necessary. Flies are stupid things, but I don't want them buzzing around me all the same.
Or spiders.
No spiders! What's the use of spiders? There isn't much in them to eat. Besides, I don't take any stock at all in such matters. Oh, to hell with you and your souls!
Where did that cat come from? That kitten.
It was given to me, Doctor, by a friend. Someone who understands me, who was trying to help me. Someone I call Master.
Well, Professor Van Helsing, what do you make of that?
Renfield has fallen victim to the dark world and is deserving of all our help.
And Dracula?
A different story. Of course, we shouldn't have expected to find him at Carfax. He's much too clever a man to hide his box of earth in his own house. He's placed it in another place, but where and how? It is vital we find that box of earth, else others should soon join the undead.
Mrs. Harper?
Yes.
Did you find him? I know. I know about Lucy. Poor Lucy.
Mrs. Harper,
Yes.
what happened last night?
Well, I took the stick and drop that Dr. Seward so kind of gave me, but for a long time it didn't take. I became more wakeful. Myriads of horrible fancies crowded my mind. All dealing with blood and vampires. But eventually I fell asleep. But somewhere I was awakened. How, I don't know. I sensed a terror, a presence in the room. And approaching my bed as if in a mist, a figure, all in black. Dracula. His face was waxen, his lips bright red, and
time passed before he took his foul, awful, sneering mouth away. And then I saw it drip with fresh blood. And he ripped open his shirt, and with this long, sharp nail, he tore open a vein in his breast. And he took my hands in his, and with the other seized my neck and pressed my mouth against his chest, that I either suffocate or swallow some of the... What have I done? What have I done to deserve such a fate? I have walked in meekness and righteousness all of my days. Oh, Lord, pity me, a soul worse than mortal peril.
Mrs. Harker, what happened next?
I went with him. I went with him. And I remember no more. I remember no more.
He must have taken you to his hiding place. If we can discover where that is, he may be destroyed and you set free.
Oh, it's too late. It's too late. My eyes have become glassy and my teeth long and sharp, and I thirst for blood. I'm becoming one of them, the undead.
You must let him hypnotize you. Perhaps in a hypnotic trance you will be able to remember where he has taken you. Will you help us?
Yes. Yes, if it's possible.
You, all of you, by virtue of nationality, by heredity, or by the assignment of natural gifts which allow you to hold your respective places in the moving world, I take to account that I am as sane as the majority of men in full retention of their liberties.
You do seem to be improving rapidly.
I fear, Dr. Seward, that you do not apprehend my request. I desire to leave this place at once, here, now, this very hour, this very moment, if I may. I am sure it is only logical to appoint before such an admirable practitioner as Dr. Seward so simple yet so momentous a request. Is it possible that I have erred in my supposition?
You have.
Then I suppose I must shift my grounds of request. Let me ask you this concession, boon, privilege, what you will. I am content not to employ this for my sake, but for the sake of others. I cannot tell you the full reason for this, but please be assured that these reasons are good reasons, sound and unselfish, and spring from the highest sense of duty. Could you look, sir, into my heart, you would approve to the full the sentiments which animate me. Nay, more, you would number me among the best and truest of friends.
Can you not tell us your real reason for wanting to be free tonight?
Come, Randy. Tell us.
Dr. Seward, if I were my own man, I would not hesitate a moment, but I am not my own master in this matter. I can only ask you to trust me, and if I am refused, the responsibility does not rest with me.
Dr. Seward.
Please, Dr. Seward, let me entreat you, let me implore you, send me away from this house at once, how you will and where you will. Let them come at me with whips and chains, put me in a straitjacket, manacle and leg iron, even to a cell, but let me leave! Do not know whom you wrong by keeping me here, and I may not tell. I may not tell. By all you hold sacred, by all you hold dear, for the sake of the Almighty, take me out of this and free my soul from guilt! Can you hear me? Can't you understand? I am no lunatic in a mad fit, but a sane man fighting for his soul. Oh, hear me! Let me go! Let me go!
Come, Randy. No more of this. It's It's best you go to your room.
You will, I trust, Dr. Seward. Do me the honor to bear in mind later on that I did what I could to convince you.
Mrs. Harker? Mrs. Harker?
Yes.
Where are you?
What?
Where are you?
I don't know. It's all strange to me.
What do you see?
I see nothing. It's all dark.
Are you in a house? Are you in this house?
Yes. Yes. And now I see him. It's Count Dracula. Take me away, please! Please!
There, Mrs. Harker.
The crucifix on the desk. Would you bring it to me, please? Bertie, I'm impure. Amongst the damned, a vampire like Pussy. It's too late. It's too late.
Abigail, would you go upstairs and stay with Mrs. Harper? Or Mrs. Harper?
Yes. But she has supplied us with significant information. Do you pretend to have old papers, drawings of this house? The houses were designed in the same way for brothers. Is it not possible there may be an underground passage between the two? I keep thinking about Abby remembering a chapel.
It's just something she imagined.
Judging from the paper and the watermark, these drawings are less than 100 years old since the division of the property. Do you have a marker? Have you checked the scale of the measurements of this room? Just as I suspected, 6 feet off.
What?
From the measurements indicated on the drawing, which means part of this room has been sealed off.
A chapel?
It's a chapel. There must have been a chapel. That's where Dracula has made his hiding place, using the underground passage from Carfax. Quickly, bring down Abigail. Abigail, you are a good girl, a bright and very helpful girl. Years ago, you said you were in the Carfax mansion. You said you were in a chapel.
Oh, no, ma'am. We didn't go in, brother and I. We were too afraid. We just looked in.
Where was the chapel, Abby?
Why, off the study, ma'am. There. Redfield! I have heard Redfield's voice calling for help. I went to his room. He was there on the floor. Oh.
He is dead, Mrs. Harper.
It was a cat. A kitten. Lapping up the blood.
With blood is the light. I love him, Mrs. Harper.
Poor young man. Poor demented young man. Perhaps I'm to meet the same fate, for he has been touched by Dracula just as I have been.
Now is the time, Dr. Seward.
Abigail, sit there.
Oh, I'm afraid. Oh, Lordy! Oh. Crucifix. Please bring it to me. He's dead. The monster is dead.
Yes, Dracula is at peace. Someday we all shall be.
Am I free, Professor?
Yes, you are free. Just as Count Dracula is now free. It's a freedom greater than any being he may have had. Spiritual, metaphysical, supernatural. Let us remember that in his time, and before his death, his first death, he had been a great man.
He's truly dead.
Yes, and only a character to be remembered. The adventure has ended. And we, Miss Lucy, Renfield, all of us, our characters, if we are to have any extension of being in time, any form of immortality, it will be as memories, along with Dracula.